Hello, folks. I'm doing a new episode called My Martial Arts Two Cents, to where I pretty much give, I think of pretty much a question or a past issue that I've saw, and I kind of answer it not only from my experience, but from other practitioners' experience that I've seen and I've caught on to. So here we go with this episode. But as I start this episode, since this is a new thing, I'm going to give my credentials as my martial arts two cents. Right now, I am a black belt holder in Hapkido, which is a Korean self-defense art. I'm a brown belt one holder in Judo. I'm a blue belt in Taekwondo, and I've had some classes in Taekwondo, Jiu-Jitsu, and have done some MMA training with some similar folks and MMA sparring with some folks. With that being said, the question we're going to talk to kind of alleviate this is every martial arts effective? My true answer, it depends. So I want to say it leans to a yes, but it depends. Reason why I say it depends is one, can that art be modernized? And my view of modernization is, can it be updated to take on current threats, to take on current problems of the art? A good example of this, believe it or not, is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is known as the martial art to learn. It's good, it's effective. It is almost touted as the god of martial arts, which on one half, I give some props because, it did have a rough way up, but at the same time, not as rough as people would suspect. However, we do have to understand that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is from the traditional Jiu-Jitsu martial art from Japan. And those teachings are quite old, but what the practitioner did was that he was taught those moves, he modernized them to try to take on current threats back in the day, which is still applicable to this day, and put them fully to the test, not just on the street by accident, not just inviting people to come over and take him on, but he literally went through the UFC and then continued his practice of my art can beat your art. Now, with that being said, the people that probably went to these events, sure, one half I want to say had more of an ego. And I say this because, let's be honest, if someone says I can beat any martial arts practitioner or any martial art, you have to have seen one half as a big ego, and that's usually my big worry with BJJ practitioners. Is that yes, in some schools, and I've been to some schools, I've been taught some, I've went to some class in some of the schools. They're very humble about it. They'll teach you, they'll do this here. There won't be no degrading going on. There won't be no like this is the art to learn. But I can also suspect that there's a bit of ego crushing or big egos around here and there. However, on the other side, of course, we gotta go with the people who took the bait of let me go over here and bust them up with my art, which is one half they see the big ego and they want to crush it, and the other half they also have an ego because they want to go over there and prove that their art is more dominant, which is never really the case. Because we can all learn from we can all learn from each other. So, my speak on that with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, using that as a reference, is I think every art can be quite applicable. It just depends on, can it be modernized? Can you apply the moves to current threats? And I say this not only from the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu perspective, but as a Hapkido / Aikido perspective. Now, from a lot of videos that I've scoped out, whether it be commercials or things that I've really had to dive deep on and see even certain channels kind of bash on the art. I want to say to them, one half, I can kind of see where you're coming from. But the other half, are you sure it is the art that was bad, or are you sure it was the application of that art? Are you sure it is how it was taught to you? Because with the instructors that taught me, they were both traditionally they were mostly they learned from Aikido and Hapkido at the same time. So in a way, I want to say they're more aggressive Aikidoists, but they spoke very in depth about how a certain technique works, what you should and should not apply this technique to. They're very scientific. They're very in detail. Or to pretty much put it in a more shorter perspective, I had very good teachers who detailed that you want to do this and this move with this kind of attack, or you want to apply this technique. Because I have seen also the other side of the spectrum, which is just I'm going to put you in this hold, and then I'm going to have chi that's going to emanate from my body and put you down. I've heard of that. And that is also spoken into close to the same art, which brings small angry tears down my eye. But with the people that taught me this, Hapkidoists and Aikidoists, I do believe those moves are still quite effective. And when people go like, well, if it's still quite effective, why hasn't a person in MMA hasn't showed up in it yet? Two reasons. One, I mean, how many MMA gyms are open to be teaching Aikido or Hapkido? Let's look at that for a moment. And two, from what I remember from UFC MMA rules, one of the rules they do depict is no small joint manipulation locks, anything like that. So anything involving wrist, anything involving hands may not be the best thing. And when I do think of Aikido, Hapkido, two of my favorite things to pop up that are very unsuspecting but are quite effective is anything that bends the wrist this way, or that bends the fingers this way. Those are pretty small joint locks right there. With that being said, though, I do believe, just like in past martial arts that have shown up in the MMA ranks, such as when people go like, oh, karate's just for kids, and then Lyoto came up and whooped some tail. Oh, okay, well, judo's not efficient. Ronda Rousey and some other practitioners of the art, or similar to the art, Sambo, I'm forgetting his name, but he's there, came in and threw some folks. I'm just saying. I feel that it's just to crank up the spectrum. I mean, even Kung Fu, which is like most people went like, oh, Kung Fu inefficient. We got this cat coming in, has Kevin Holland, black belt in Kung Fu. Well, I think from one of his Joe Rogan podcasts, he's a second degree black belt, but he knows Kung Fu, and he's doing really well. So, with that being said, I feel that once the art becomes modernized, once we kind of see this uptick of how it can be applied and the adjustments made, and now pretty much slight perfection to where it can handle certain the current taker, which is MMA, then I do believe that it will rise up in those ranks. And I think it's only a matter of time, to be honest. Because there are some holds in Aikido and Hapkido that people don't know is Aikido or Hapkido. I was doing a class one time, and I was doing this pretty much wrist pin or this elbow pin, to where I kind of chicken wing the dude's arm, put my hand pretty much on the reverse right here, and put some pressure on it. And if I did it correctly, he was not able to move, and if he was, it'd be in slight pain. Or I can adjust and just take him to the ground. He literally told me that this move sounds familiar, and it sounds familiar as in like during my early days, I ran into the cops a lot, and one of this hold feels very familiar, like it's been done to me before. I'm just saying there's some connections there. And on top of that, there's maybe a couple of things in some of the other arts that people may not want to rule out that, oh, that's from Aikido and Hapkido. It is. It's efficient. Now, I understand that yes, it may take a little bit of uptick, but I do believe from the teachers that have taught me to my application on the Hapkido techniques here and there that there is high probability that it is effective, and it is still quite modernized in a way. I mean, I'm open to sparring. I'm not gonna tote it out and be like, hey, if you feel like you can take me on, take me on. Come on, let's do it. I'm not gonna be that guy. But if you want to see some application, I am willing and hopeful to do that with either Hapkido, some Judo-esque kind of mixture. Because if you do know your history, Hapkido and Judo do have some similar lines here and there. But with that being said, that's my 2 cents on the matter. So, one more time to recap, is every martial arts effective? It depends. Can it be modernized? Can you practice with the moves? Can you apply it to different styles? Remember, practice, 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 practice. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu had all this practice to apply against different styles. And also had the leeway that most strikers do not know what to do when either A, someone's real close on them, or B, when someone takes them to the ground. And that was Jiu-Jitsu's, or what I like to view, most grappling arts' main advantage, is they knew that their main strategy is to take them on the ground and do what you want with them. So, with my 2 cents on that, I hope this landed. I hope this kind of impacted for you. I hope this is an eye-opener for some folks. Please let me know what you think. And as always, hope you have an awesome day. For my past episodes, deuces.